Eric posed and said yes.
Yay!
Can't talk about it yet, but
no,
we have a couple new
cannot.
things that we can't talk about. What was it?
So don't.
I'm not going to talk about it, and then you just talk about it. So what a show today.
Can Rob Hatch deadlift anything that's on fire?
That's a great question. Is Nancy Harhut dedicated to a career in voiceover?
She could be. I hope she'll at least read her own book when she writes it.
Yeah, she's working on a new book. So you heard
Here
it
on
here
the Backpack Show, we love to encourage our guests to write books about their interesting experiences. One might even say, harangue them into it.
Yes. Because, what I think is, to help us get even more sponsors, she'll have to go to PubSite because she'll have this book she needs to promote. She's like, man, that was really hard to write a book. I don't want to have to promote it. She'll be on PubSite.
Hi, Chloe. Chloe on Facebook and Chloe on YouTube.
Hi, both Chloes.
Dad.
Hey, Dad. Never heard back from you after your yesterday, so I thought my dad died on the blood drawing table or something.
Stop it! That's horrible.
Go to the doctor's office, never come back.
Never say that again. I love your dad. You'll give me the horrors.
Oh, who doesn't love him? He's a very lovable man. He's
the Backpack
jolly.
Show wouldn't be the same without him.
What's this show about? What do we do? Why do we make this show?
We are going to bring back.
Backpack Show. Huh?
We're bringing back Nancy Harhut because we lost her last time.
And
it's so crushingly disappointing because everybody, even the actors from Diablero, were like asking Nancy questions. We all wanted to know how to get people to do what we want them to do. And then she was just gone. It was crushingly disappointing. Hi, Coach Woodard.
So can you imagine Hollywood actors showing up and, being that exciting? No, you need Mexican actors to be into your guests. That's what matters.
You know what? They're so lovely.
So, bonjour, Carole. ¿Cómo se va? Ça va bien?
Hello, Len.
Hi, Len.
Love Len.
So, Len Joy. Another one of Nancy Harhut's fellow authors. I thought you were pointing at something else for a second there. So,
what else would I be pointing at if we're talking about Len Joy's book?
You almost pulled the Shibari effect. No, you pulled the Shibari effect right before you pointed at the bookshelf. You pointed at you. Hey, Chaz. We better bring Nancy on.
I think we should.
Bad things are gonna happen. I missed the thing on wearing red. All I have on is red underpants. Hi, Nancy Harhut.
So you got the memo. Hi. Nancy went all in. She made the wall even red.
She painted the wall red for us.
So here's why I think Nancy should write a book, because she's been talking for years about how to get people to take very specific actions that you would like them to take, and not just in theory, like down to the very tactical things like what words to use and how to structure your ask and stuff like that. So you know all the things, Nancy. So tell us.
So, well, it's interesting. So, Gary, I think the one thing we should open with is you really can't make somebody do something that they're dead set against doing. But there's a big range between dead set against doing something and, absolutely going to do it. And it's in that range that you can play, because you can kind of nudge people in the direction you want them to go. And there's been some interesting research that's gone into this. And what social scientists and behavioral economists have found is very often people rely on decision-making shortcuts. There's just so much information coming at us that we don't have the time to really weigh every data point. So we just default to these hardwired behaviors, which humans have developed over the millennia. And so as marketers, if we are aware of these hardwired behaviors, we can put ourselves in a position to nudge people in one direction or another. And it's really interesting, some of the things that have proven to work. There was a study that was done in the Journal of Marketing Research, I think, and they had somebody who had to introduce the idea that there was going to be a shipping charge when someone bought a product, and they had to say it's going to cost you $5. And they thought, that's not good news, but on the other hand, it's only $5. So they were torn between framing it as a $5 fee or a small $5 fee. And the small $5 fee actually got a 50% lift in sales. And when you think about it, it's like everybody knows what $5 is, and you can almost say it would almost be annoying that the marketer is trying to tell you, it's just a small $5 fee, but yet framing it as a small $5 fee got a 50% lift in sales. So it's these little things that just kind of tip us in one direction or another that are so fascinating.
It's funny alchemy happened already, because you're talking about decision-making shortcuts, because decisions actually actually take mental energy. And when we have Rob Hatch on later, his book talks about that, how like every subsequent decision, like there you have less energy for it because they're so taxing.
Because you eat them up over the time. It's funny you said the word nudge. I was over here like biting through my lips not to say nudge because that's what I kept hearing in my head. But I also was thinking about, I have a habit as a host when I'm trying not to talk, which is I nod, which is you get that bobblehead effect, which is not good at hosting, it turns out. But I was thinking about, do you know the restaurant term, the Sullivan Nod? You've heard of the Sullivan Nod, which is, someone, you sit down for a drink and you're like, hey, what do you think about a margarita? And they start nodding their head because you're nodding your head. And it's a physiological response that once you get people nodding, they nod. And once they start nodding, they start thinking yes things while they're doing it. So I was taught this in restauranting. So you do that. And then you say things like, well, Cuervo, or are we going to, we going Patron? Your hand goes up and they're like, oh, Patron, because that's better. Right. So it was just funny. I was curious in general, do you know about the Sullivan Nod much? But then also, in those nudges, isn't it weird, or is it weird that it can be physiological like that? It could be the word small. Why is it that? Why is it, I guess because it's not as abrupt.
Nancy, why are we the way we are?
Why are we this way?
We've just developed these hardwired behaviors that basically help us navigate life. In their genesis is probably something that was very, very useful at the time. Why small $5 versus just $5 makes a difference, I don't know, other than it's telegraphing, I guess, signaling to you that it's not that much of a risk, where it's framed as small. Sometimes it's words, sometimes, as you say, it's physiological, it's gestures or actions. Circling back to the restaurants, there was a study that showed if you are a server and you bring the check and you put the mints down with your check, with your customer's check, you'll get a bigger tip than if there's just a big bowl of mints at the hostess station where, theoretically people could take as many as they wanted. But
sure, then you have nothing to do with the mints.
But the fact that you're giving the mints, helps you get a bigger check. And then what they found was, or bigger tip, I'm sorry. And then what they found was if you come with the check, you put it down, you put down the mints, you turn and you start to leave, and then you almost pause and turn around and come back and put another couple of mints down, your tip goes up even higher. It's that idea that this server's really taking care of me. Like they didn't just give me the standard apportionment of mints, they really slid me some extra ones. So it's, and if you ask somebody, excuse me, is that why you gave them a bigger tip? They'd say no. They would find all kinds of reasons, probably reasons that they honestly believed for why they did what they did. Oh, the service was really good, the food was exceptional. So often we don't know why we do. And when we're asked, we kind of create a logical reason, a reason that we think makes sense, but really we're kind of, at the mercy of all of these kind of undercurrents that are, pushing us in one direction or another. And we're just flowing along and not even realizing that, the effect that they're having on us.
So on the Backpack Show, the community we serve has some of the very best insights, like Carol saying people want to be convinced to buy things they want. Michelle says that the Sullivan Nod's sort of like mirroring. Yes. Matt Desmier, one of my favorite speakers.
Matt!
He says he's going to look it up. I'll be looking for that paper later. Hi, Paul. Always discussing raising the price and offering small or no shipping versus lower cost products and shipping. Oh, so people think they're getting something.
Yeah, because
Chloe
Paul does that mail wine thing. So
it's like that psychological pricing when you charge just below $100, like Chloe's saying, it drives her nuts, but makes a big difference in conversion. Steve says something about kneeling down and writing a smiley face on the check, I guess, at the restaurant. I've never had that. No one has knelt for me and wrote nice things on my check for me. I did get extra mints once. So people are talking
extra mints one.
Your decisions. Yeah.
All right. I want to go back to Chloe's question, the 97 versus 100, because when we started doing what we do at Owner Media, that was one of the things we started doing right out of the gate. Is we said, so Owner Insider is $20. I know I'm supposed to put 19 because that's what marketers want you to do. But we're going to just tell you that it's 20 because you're smarter than that. And so we sort of pushed back on the 19, but we very specifically called it out. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Because I thought it was good for a long time, and now every day I wonder, maybe I should have gone the other route.
It's bad.
I'm going to give you the marketer's answer, which is, it's a testable proposition. On the one hand,
Hate
you
that.
go, there's something called a charm price, any price that ends in 9. So you could have gone with 19.99. It ends in 9 because it's a charm price. It's the left digit, the left digit is a 1, not a 2. And even though the only difference is a penny between 19.99 and 20, it registers as a bigger difference in our heads because it's the difference between a 1 and a 2. On the other hand, 10 and multiples of 10 are very easy for the brain to process. Social scientists think it's because we grew up counting on our fingers, right? So 10 and multiples of 10 are really easy for the brain to process. And when something is easy for the brain to process, it feels right. And if it feels right, we assume it must be right. So that would be the argument for 20. And then when you layer on what I think I heard you say, that you literally explicitly said, we think you guys are smarter than this. You're not going to fall for, well, that makes people feel good. They feel like they're special. They're part of a select group. So the argument there is, that could work. So now we've got an argument for the 1999. We've got an argument for the 20. They're both solid hypotheses, and this so often happens when you're dealing with behavioral science. Then you put them out and you test them and you see, all right, where am I getting the biggest lift?
We have a rule at Chris Brogan Media that if there's an argument and Chris is on one side of it, that he's right. So Chip says he loves being a contrarian too, but sometimes conventional wisdom is actually right. Michelle says it just boils down to feeling good. I so agree with that. Making people feel like they're on the inside is literally what you do, Chris. So that's part of it. And Chip says smiley face and eye level, I guess, for waitressing are both things that have shown to boost tips. How about that?
That's interesting because what I just took out of that, because it's all about me, I took about, I said $20 because this, because, the number thing is dumb, but you said, well, maybe or maybe not. However, the fact that you kind of layer on top of that, that you're part of us, that's what they're reacting to, meaning I could maybe get even better reaction if I did the 19 something or rather, but because I did this, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, well, you picked a different way to get to the goal. But it would kind of confuse or conflate your responses or your results.
Yeah, it's funny with with all this behavioral science and why people do what they do. Sometimes you'll find these like conflicting principles. Like people like to feel like they're special. They're part of a very exclusive group. But on the other hand, people like to do what everyone else does because that makes them feel confident that they're not taking a risk. So you're like, well, what is it? Do I want to be like everybody else, or do I want to be super special? And both of those are principles that work. The idea of exclusivity, which is part of the scarcity principle, or the idea of social proof, which is when we're not sure what to do, we just do what everyone else does. So, from a marketing perspective, there really is a lot of opportunity to test to see, well, what's going to work for me in this particular situation with this product, with this, target market. But making people feel good, whether it's, making them feel like they're part of a special group, or whether it's putting a little smiley face on the check that makes you feel like, oh, they liked me. And I did read that works. I have not read about the kneeling down, but I suspect what it has to do is coming down to the level of the patron, and that's probably a good thing too. It's leaning in. That's that closeness or camaraderie. All of that makes you feel like this person likes me. And when you the principle of liking is if you like somebody, you're much more likely to be persuaded by them and to believe what they're saying. So I think it all kind of pulls together.
I have a question, but first, Chip says, why wouldn't Chris Brogan always be right at Chris Brogan Media? Chris Brogan is always right. He's never in doubt. And
Confidently
Steve says,
wrong.
a good salesperson will be easier to sell when they're buying from a good salesperson. So them, what color? Like, what color do you want? Like, obviously you're buying this thing. Yay. So fitting in, but being just a little bit better. Yes, Carol. My question is, does this same shortcutting happen with big decisions like choosing a car or a college? Or are we talking about like menu items and email opens, which are kind of lower stakes decisions? Like, will it work in complex B2B transactions where it's like an 18-month decision usually? What can you do with this?
Sure, that's a really good question. And there are definitely degrees, deciding, which pack of gum to buy is not nearly the same thing as deciding which college to go to. So for the most part, we cruise along on autopilot. There are times when we pull the full resources of our brains, and really focus, and we do, the list of pros and cons, and we really think hard about a decision. But the truth is, it doesn't happen as often as you might think. And even for something like, buying a car or choosing a college, there are other things at play. How am I, are my friends going to this college? how am I going to feel going to the college? Does it have a good reputation? Will I feel good telling people about it? Or is it some small unknown one and people are going to kind of go, oh, you couldn't get in, So there are like emotional things and that factor into these decisions. Buying a car, one of the things they do is they use like a compare and contrast thing where once you decide to buy the actual car, that's the biggest amount of money. So then it's really easy to upsell you after that because it's only an extra few, $100 for this trim line or an extra few $100 for this package of, extra luxury items. And it seems small because of the larger sales price of the car to begin with. So there are still, some of these human behavior principles that factor in on some relatively large purchases that aren't as simple as buying a pack of gum at the supermarket.
You don't have to tell me I have an $800 mahogany front door with a recessed entryway. Like nobody sees that door.
But you know what? People feel really special when they come through it. See, you're making them feel good. Mahogany door, right?
You can come in, Nancy, but not many other people.
What could be beyond a door that's made of mahogany? That's got to be something in there. That's one of my other favorite sales things. You don't even want to know what's back there.
So Paul says he always knelt when coaching kids to make them feel comfortable. Now, I'm guessing, Paul, that you're very tall. So some people, I'm 5'6", I don't necessarily have to kneel to make kids feel comfortable, but I get where you're coming from. We had 2 gym teachers at my school. Miss Hill was, 5'3". And the other guy, I can't remember because I didn't like talking to him because he was like 7 feet tall, it seemed like.
I love that Miss Hill was only 5'3".
Yeah, so I was like, I could talk to Miss Hill. She's more approachable. So Chip's saying more input and more consideration don't necessarily equate to better decisions. That's the truth.
That is true.
More is a terrible decision-making tool is what I've come to accept.
Just agonize.
All right, Nancy, I was just telling Carrie privately that I think I could listen to you talk for about 5 hours, which, I have something for that. But for right now, I'm going to say goodbye to you. We're going to put you back. Don't go anywhere if you can.
Lose power.
Keep the neighborhood power on because we want to get you in a panel after this. So thank you so much for being part of this today.
Don't leave.
Gone.
Please don't leave.
Don't go. Please don't go.
God, she's so amazing. So if you haven't looked at Nancy's other work, definitely check out LinkedIn, follow her on Twitter. She talks about really specific tactics for getting like email open rates up, click-throughs, purchase, everything. So the whole buyer's journey you can impact.
And she's working on a new book. So you are going to love
Starting today.
Starting today. Today's the first day. So not even a table of contents yet, but we're just going. So Nancy Harhut is a great guest. You know it, Michelle. Hey, listen, yesterday we forgot to do our person of the day. Person of the day is sponsored by the nice people at FSB.
Did we forget?
Yeah, Chris Brogan forgot. So person of the day is, somebody sponsored by PubSite, pub-site.com, FSB Associates. We're going to do 2 today. So I want to tell you that my first thing for person of the day, because I don't remember if I gave him person of the day before or not, but it's Paul. Paul shows up. Paul's the CEO. He's tasted thousands and thousands of wines. So he recommends amazing wines. When you are made person of the day, you get a free apple just like that one. All you got to do, go to the store and buy one, and you can eat it at your leisure.
You can turn it into wine. I used to drink Boone's apple wine in college.
Yes, you can. This was made, Paul can make it wine apples. 300 footsteps from my house, there's a farm, and this is early Macs. Early Macs are the only Macs. After you eat any Macintosh apple any other time of year, it's not good.com. Okay. We are sponsored by StreamYard. You can go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Make your own damn show. It could be so much better. You can have a 2-hour show, just Nancy Harhut. I think she could carry a 2-hour show. I don't even have a question about that. So make your own show, Nancy not included. See, I took your line. cbrogan.me/StreamYard. We are sponsored also by PubSite, pub-site.com. Authors, you've written a book just like Nancy Harhut has, and all the work she put into it. I'm in the future already. She's written an incredible book. She's edited this book. This book is ready to go. It goes in the ground like kimchi for months because that's what publishers do. You never know why. Then they hold off because there's a disease outdoors. And then you say, I've got to promote this damn thing. If it was a book launch day, for instance, what would I do? Do I even have a website for my book? Because, I want to help draw attention to people. No, you don't, because you didn't go to pub-site.com and get one made, did you? Carrie, Rob Hatch could have used pub-site.com to make his site.
He could have. I feel like you're being very unkind to authors. Authors are very busy. Fazia Burke at FSB Associates wrote a whole book just for busy authors. So I know how busy they are. But if you need a website and you have no idea how to build one, PubSite makes it so crazy easy for you to do it. And if you don't want to do it, even though it's super easy, they will do it for you. So pub-site.com, it's a free 2-week trial. So you can check it out, 14-day free trial if you're on the calendar day thing. And after that, it's just $19.99 a month, Nancy Harhut, to have your book website. And FSB Associates that created PubSite, pub-site.com, knows all about book promotion because they've been in the book promotion business for 25 years. There is no one better. So get your book website from PubSite.
Get your book website from pubsite.com. Yeah. See, you can't have a hyphen in a song.
You're wicked excited today about PubSite.
I am. PubSite's the best pub site there is. I'm really excited.
So I'm not the only one that noticed how excited you are. Michelle says you had too much coffee this morning.
I did not have too much coffee.
And Chloe says she loves Nancy. I love Nancy too.
I love Nancy. Glad she came back on. Look at this.
I see it.
You pay 99 cents today. Your attention is worth 99 cents if you buy the Kindle version.
I don't buy the Kindle versions. I do audiobooks or I do regular books. I did Kindle like once upon a time, but not anymore.
I'm a Kindle kind of guy.
I'm kind of over it.
So what would you do if you were an attractive gentleman, born and raised in Maine, really good at running companies?
Are we talking about you again, or?
I could get to that. Got pulled from the important life's work of helping kids better, running a nonprofit, helping thousands of kids, and gets stripped into a stupid media company where it's been nothing but downhill since. Absolutely, for real, like financially and everything. Crazy ride. And then, hangs out with an author coworker, an author guy who runs companies with him. And suddenly you get a chance to put a book out. That's dangerous waters. But I think it's time today to bring out Rob Hatch. Pay attention, Rob.
Oh, here I am. Look at me.
There's a new book. There's a new book.
More Nancy.
Put Nancy back out. So when did you decide to stop helping children and do this thing with Chris?
When he asked, it was kind of a funny story.
You're like, you're on your own, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Uncle Rob.
I was in early childhood education for like 20 years and loved it. And it was, a great time. Loved my career, loved my work. And then, Chris and I have been friends for a long time. And he sort of approached me about coming on board to help him out. And at first I said no, because I liked what I did. And but then I sort of thought about it. And when I said yes, and here we are 10 years later, actually, because it's been that long, believe it or not.
You tilt your camera this way so when you're big on the screen, I can show your website and it doesn't cover your...
What's that?
Oh, tilt your camera down just a tiny bit.
Oh, just
I don't want to cover your face, but I want to
pretend you're bringing your seat up a little. There we go.
There we
go.
Yay.
I don't know how we didn't notice that before, but Rob did get in and out of his chair a lot. So maybe we do.
Well, because his attention was split.
All right.
I was grabbing notes grabbing a piece of paper so I could take notes from Nancy.
Attention, Rob Hatch is here. Rob is still helping a child. Ouch.
Give that man an apple.
I know who gets the other apple of the day.
Hi, Carol.
So on appointment for that burn, Chris.
That is perfect. That wins the internet today.
Hang on a minute.
Well, ouch, boy. Poor thing. All right. The book, as reviewed by Becky McCrae yesterday, future guest Becky McCrae. She commented on the fact that the book itself is laid out to work with someone who has limited attention. Like you've got it. It's a nice, clean book. You even have the call outs. So you kind of can't miss them unless you're really not looking, like if you're really not paying attention. But one of the things Nancy talked about that put me in mind of the book itself was that we're using decision-making shortcuts all the time because like making decisions takes energy. Yes. And in the book, you say that when you have to make one, you have less energy left to make more later. How does that affect our productivity?
Yeah, we're faced with so many decisions. I mean, every, email that comes in is a decision. Every notification you get is another decision. I mean, just thinking about that for a second, you open your inbox and you look at every single message that you have to sort of skim through is a tiny decision, and we subject ourselves to this all day long. So the idea of kind of decision making shortcuts is, how do I set up my inbox so that I don't have to look at that and make all those tiny little decisions? Oh, that can wait, let me respond. Oh, that's just spam. That's every single message there. We are putting ourselves in a position of having to decide. So I loved that she was talking about decision-making shortcuts, and that's exactly what this is about. It's about trying to figure out how do we set those up for ourselves and make decisions ahead of time, decide before we have to, so that when we're in the moment, that decision is easier and we can kind of lean on that shortcut.
Do you answer Chris's emails right away, or like how long do you give it?
So Chris's emails, actually, I filter and I send them off to a folder so that my inbox is, really not very cluttered. So anything from Chris, anything from my wife, clients, it skips the inbox, goes right to a folder, and then it's bolded. And then I know when I'm going into email, I don't have to go through that whole process of, okay, what's here? What do I have to do? I just look at the folders in the order that I've prioritized them and say, okay, Chris emailed me. I got to look and see what he needs and check it. And so
you have fans here, Rob. I just want to say Cynthia says she's excited. She's going to buy the book today.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And Mike, sorry, he's like covering you, but he says that you were at an event together and you were leaving,
Mike, yes.
and you gave him your badge when you were leaving. And he says,
luckily they look almost the same.
They look almost the same. Most people probably aren't paying attention. So wouldn't matter. Decision-making drains energy you could be spending on more worthwhile things, says Carol.
Absolutely. So
Chris,
I love
get funneled into a folder.
When you were talking to Nancy about the car making decision, right? So that idea of the easy upsell in the moment, if you know that going in, if you know that you're going to be upsold, so you might go in and say, I've got a budget of, whatever amount, or maybe it's a monthly budget of $300 a month that I'll spend, or $400 a month that I'll spend. But you know that they're going to come at you with those things. You can leave yourself some room to say, I'm going to say yes up to this next level. And that's really my cap. And you just, go in better prepared. It's the same, simplest concept is when you go into a grocery store and you have a list, you spend less. You don't buy, you don't impulse buy. So those are just pre-made decision-making shortcuts that you can put in place.
I'm the worst car buyer, Rob. I will be like, are you deaf? I said this much and no more. So you tell me if you want to see that car on the lot tomorrow or not.
Right. and that's good. I mean, you've decided,
but mahogany front door.
Right. Well, we've all got our soft spot for something.
That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about indecision. So the way you lay out the book is the book says, here's the state of things. By the way, one comment ahead of this. As an author and a friend, it was everything in the universe not to be like at every point, hey, let me take a look at your table of contents. Hey, let me look at your thing. Hey, let me give you my insight, how I would write a book. The whole time I was just like, I'll eat celery or something. I kept
you in the dark.
Best as you could too, because
in the folder.
It would have been the worst. It would have been such an asshole thing anyway. But anyway, that was first. Now, what I was thinking about is the way you laid out. Here's the state of things. Here's why I think attention's the thing. And then like the mass part of the book is, here's some systems. Indecision, not deciding, leaving something in the inbox, all those things are a massive drain. And you cover that a little bit. Do you want to talk just a little bit about, kind of the cost of indecision and what that does to the rest of all your systems?
Well, think about that idea of you've left it in the inbox, but it's really never left your brain, right? It stays there as like some little nagging thing. We all have those things that we're sort of shoving in the corners. We walk by every day. We get used to it, but it's like mental clutter. It takes up this space. Like, I got to deal with that. I got to deal with that. Every time you open your inbox to get to the folder that says Chris, if I keep leaving that there, it's draining me one more time. So yeah, the indecision part of that. And again, it can't be perfect, right? You can't have it be perfectly clean. But Ron Hood, who we all know and love, his one of my favorite phrases from him was, if it happens more than twice, it needs a system, right? And that's really at the crux of this. If you're going to email with someone back and forth more than a few times over an extended period, you have a new client, create a folder and a filter so that everything just goes in there, and you know when you're entering email that you're going in there with an intention. I also, it's not like I don't like Facebook or Twitter or all of the technology that's available to us. It's that I want us to use it, or I want to use it for the reasons that I want, not because it's telling me to look at the next video or, go like this or check this out. I want to go there with intention. I want to get in, do the thing, and get out. And sometimes that's just checking in on friends, and that's okay too. But yeah, all that indecision, leaving things hanging around, just is a total mental drain. We all procrastinate on crap. And if we can kind of eliminate that by setting up simple systems, it's just so much easier.
A couple people want me to go car shopping with them after this. Michelle says, you're so right, Rob. You get used to seeing whatever that thing is sitting there and know you have to deal with it, and it just makes you feel worse. And Carol says, one of the worst parts of COVID has been decision fatigue. Like every time the kids ask if they can do something, you're torn between safety and wanting them to be happy. So it's fraught on top of just being another decision you have to make.
And I think we have to be easy on ourselves about that, because COVID has really strained that. And it's an unusual place to be, right? This is an unusual...
unprecedented one, Mike.
Yeah. I was so avoiding that word. Thank you. But it really has taxed that. And whether it's about school or sports or going outside or going to do something with family and seeing, that is an amplified version of all the things that we are actually subjecting ourselves on a day-to-day basis inside email. It's just now it feels a little, it's much more personal, and safety concerns are at play, and mental health.
Did you practice that?
I did not.
That's a new variation on the Rob Hatch signature.
Oh, the only thing that's new is the H.
The H, which is so good.
Wait, the H wasn't there before? Then it just looked like a E?
It looked like an E.
It's actually an R. That loop is actually a D. The beginning is an R. That's a D for Raymond is my actual first name.
Right. Well, come back for the next backpack show and we compare author signatures.
Oh,
and,
Chris is
have
great.
the audience vote.
Well, mine comes from a very early ex who said to me that, anyone on the earth could forge your signature, And so I like sat there like a girl in 4th grade writing the boyfriend's name on the notebook, TLA forever. And I just wrote my own name over and
Chris
over.
Brogan forever.
Yeah. I worked on mine when I became a notary public, because I felt like a jerk having having a signature that looked like a Chinese symbol when I was a notary public. So I work it out. So yeah, I went to work on it.
Well, you already complained about my other handwriting.
I've never complained about your handwriting, Rob. Not one time have I complained about your handwriting.
Look at you gotta see this. I didn't complain, but you gotta see this. Look at this writing. No, my handwriting looks like a doctor now, but
it's very orderly. Your handwriting is very orderly.
That's because Rob writes a lot of paper notes every day.
Mine goes every which way. I had a boyfriend get mad at me in college because my notes, he was like, these aren't your notes. You have a boyfriend writing you notes. I was like, what?
All right.
My handwriting is terrible. Wait, I want to ask Rob something. I have a question.
Oh, ask a question.
One of the things you talk about, Rob, is putting success in your way. So I'm thinking that for Carol and everyone else who's kind of like every decision is really fraught, you can avoid a lot of decisions just by doing the things you talk about in the book about putting success in your way. So can you tell people what that looks like?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, put success in your way is really simple. I mean, there's 3 components to it. It's based on the idea that our willpower is limited, that decisions are distractions, and that habits are powerful biological force, which is exactly what Nancy was talking about, and using those decision-making shortcuts. So when I think about if I have to go out for a run, or I want to go to the gym or something like that, the space between me getting out of the bed and to the gym is the greatest. So I need to have things ready. If I have to think for a second about where my headphones are, is my phone charged? Do I have the right socks? Do I know where my sneakers are? Is my bag ready? Any of that stuff, I'm going to derail the whole process. So if my goal is to work out every day, I need to make sure I decide ahead of time. I figure out everything that I need, I gather it, and I put it essentially right by the bed so that when I wake up, it's just ready to go. And I've literally put success in my way to get past that first hump. It isn't always about the whole goal. It's about that hard part that like we get stuck in, that moment where we don't actually take action on the thing that will get us to the goal.
That's why my guitar's on the wall, Rob.
Yeah.
Not just for my room reader. So I could take it down and practice it. Before it was in the case. So I had to like take the case out and mess with it and everything. And I just sometimes wouldn't. What?
So we're all going to learn Mr. Jones.
Carol wants to see your signature. Chris. Chip says paper notes are a great thing.
Isn't that great?
It. That is ridiculous.
So there's a C and an H, then the T is for Christopher, the E is for Edward B. Brogan. The exclamation point forms the middle of a butterfly, so you can see the butterfly in the middle. That big swoopy down bottom part is a G, and the rest is kind of the end. The dot, dot, dot is that I've signed my name with an ellipsis since the age of 12, because I thought that was so
because there's more name coming?
Or that there's an omission. So ellipsis means one of two things. You trailed off into the hinter, or you've omitted something, and I am known to omit.
Chloe has a question. Do you think having these systems in place almost gives you a sort of armor and helps with resilience in difficult situations or times?
Yes. Easy answer, yes. And I have leaned on the systems so often throughout quarantine, right? You know, when we were talking earlier about that decision fatigue, about this, you know, should I do this? Should the kids do this? Should I say yes? Should I say no? When I get overwhelmed, if I just settle back into the systems, if I start setting things up, all of a sudden, you know, life gets a lot easier for me. And sometimes it's something so dumb, like literally programming the coffee maker the night before. Like just waking up and having that ready, you know, somehow like feels so amazing and good that I've served myself. Like last night, guy was such an awesome guy, and he set that up for me. And morning guy's like, man, thanks, this is awesome. Like
I feel that way about the crock pot. And you're like, oh, somebody cooked dinner.
Yeah,
it's like you this morning cooked dinner.
So I feel like there's one thing missing from the book: attention. Which for people joining us late, like Kate Colgan, go to cbrogan.me/attention and buy your copy of this book. It's 99 cents on Kindle. Get it now. There should be a disclaimer at the beginning of this book. And the disclaimer should read, I, Rob Hatch, love systems and I love repetition. How many years did Rob Hatch eat that same sandwich before that dietary change for breakfast?
Many years. But honestly,
20?
No.
Okay.
But, you know, 10, 15, you know, like, yeah, I still, you know, when I switched, I have essentially the same
switched to a new my sandwich, right?
Right. Yeah. It just, it fits the diet. I love systems, but I, you know, yes, as a disclaimer, but later on, at least I believe there's some place in the book where I mentioned that this is not easy for me. My brain, I was a sort of adult diagnosed ADHD. And once I figured that out, I figured it out because my son was diagnosed, and I was like, oh my God, that's me. And so all those years of spinning and thinking of action stacks is a perfect example of this. So my brain likes to constantly be creating things. It sort of feeds off that, you know, oh, well, that's cool. And action stacks, which is really a simple process that you can put in place for repeatable plans or projects, right? So when I'm setting up a webinar, I have 10 or 15 steps. But because my brain is wired the way it is, it starts out with step 1 and I can remember it all. My brain likes the creativity of, oh, what's next? Oh, right, that's that one. And I try to remember it, which I'm burning up all these calories. And if I instead, you know, go through the checklist and the action stack one by one, I get everything done and I don't burn that energy. But if I'm left to my own devices, it's step 1, step 2, step 7. Oh crap. Step 3. And I might get all the way through it. But yeah, I mean, I love systems because they work for me. They help set my brain in place, which I wish I had known as a kid or in high school or college. Oh my gosh. Like if I had these systems, I mean, these are born out of how do I make my stupid brain work better?
So you said action stacks. I heard action sex and I was like, oh, hell yes. Let's talk about this. It's because we
Action
had
sex.
James Altucher on last week, and he has idea sex. So I like to think that's why.
Well,
Pretty
there you
sure
go.
Mistress Montana has action sex.
She does not. She just beats
if you're
them.
not
That's
having action
weird end.
sex,
You're doing it wrong.
She beats them, and she does not do that. So Len Joy just bought Attention. It's the #1 new release on social media on Amazon.
Thank you.
And hello, Deb.
Because it's a social media book.
Well,
It's funny.
Whatever.
It's funny how it
#1.
gets categorized, right? But it was like social aspects of technology, which I could kind of get.
Okay.
But in the pre-order process, like it gets like reconfigured based on who's purchased the book. It tells Amazon, oh wait, they bought all these other books, and now we got to recategorize it. So, I mean, I guess social media, because we talks about how to use or not use all the various social media tools.
I think they just put you and Chris in social media, and they're like, that's where they go.
Yes, that's where they do.
Okay.
All right, listen. Second people of the day. I'm just giving it to Chip. Chip's already had one of these once, but Rob is still helping a child. Made me laugh so hard I have to give him second person of the day. So FSB Associates pub-site.com.
So good.
That was so damn good. Hey, look.
And by the way, it was not just me. I just want to point that out.
She also heard action sex.
Yes.
Yep. So, and Deb Lee joins us. Deb Lee, we'll just start over at the beginning. This is Nancy. This is Rob. They're smart.
Backpack Show.
Nancy's smarter, I guess. So, yes. Nancy, what did you hear in Attention? And doesn't this motivate you even further to write your first published book?
So, well, I'm jealous. Rob's got a published book, #1 on Amazon. That's awesome. And I haven't even written word 1 yet, but you guys are encouraging me. Rob, as I was listening to you talk, I was wondering if you had heard the story of, it's not really a story, but some research about judges granting fewer parolees parole the closer it gets to lunchtime. You're talking about how like every decision just eats away a little more energy, and you have so much less with each one. And as you were talking about that, I was like, I read this study, and if you just have the bad luck of being in front of a judge before that judge has had lunch, but when that judge should, you're kind of toast. You're not going to get your parole. So
move for a recess, Nancy.
Pardon me?
For a recess. Oh, I need to confer with my client. I need a recess.
Carrie's lawyer skills to work here and telling us that we should move for a recess for after lunch.
I have heard that study, and it's fascinating. And I mean, how do you like bring a Snickers without like actually trying to bribe the judge, right? Like, are you okay? Do you need a break?
Oh my God, no, you can't say that. You'd have to be like, oh, look, the lady on the cart gave me extra Snickers.
That's a perfect example of the decision fatigue, though, right? Not just like they're getting hungrier, but they're really like on the back end of having made all sorts of, somewhat complicated decisions and putting their heart into their work early on to then end up at, whatever,
But the stakes are so high that I think every decision they make is kind of harrowing. Yeah. And they all require tons of advanced prep. And sometimes they don't get any time to advance prep. People just show up with a last minute thing. So I do think stakes has an effect on just how much energy it takes to make the decision. Like opening an email, it's a lower stakes decision versus making something like child custody is like a major decision or a criminal thing. So I totally get that. But it's amazing what affects those decisions. So being hungry really ought not to.
So I don't know if it was so much that they were hungry. It was just the period of time. Like they've been at it since the morning. It hadn't yet hit the noon break. So you've been, 9 to 3, 8 to, or 9 to noon rather, or 8 to noon. I'm not really sure, but it was just the number of decisions that they had to have made. And then once they took their break for lunch, they came back and they were able to, make better decisions. Essentially, there was another study that was similar. It was kids taking tests in one of the Scandinavian countries, and just giving them a little bit of a break got their test scores back up. Like I think there are only a certain number of computers, and so the kids had to go in and take the test. And if you were in the last cohort, you'd been like waiting, and you really needed to have a little break before you can go in and take your test. And if you took that break, your scores went up, and if you didn't, they kind of tanked. So it's just this mental strain, I think, that Rob was talking about, where every decision you have to make just eats away at you and kind of depletes your resources and your reserves.
Nancy, people want to read your book.
They're ready. They're ready now. Listen, we are at that point in the backpack show where you have to make a decision. We have to talk about what goes in your backpack. So you get the opportunity to tell us that, over the next handful of years, let's say 5, the grounds are shifting. Everything there's nothing concrete really. There are some systems that are going to have to play in motion. So you get to add either something metaphorical, you can add something physical. We've had some great answers. We've had some interesting answers. My favorite still to date was a clown said you should add an avocado because, how do you go wrong with an avocado?
I like fearlessness and vulnerability. I like that one, Dave Landau.
Those are good ones. Dave Landau as well. So
Deb wants an audio version, Rob, and I think you should read it yourself.
I like Rob's reading voice. I would listen to that for sure. All right, what goes in the backpack, Nancy Harhut?
Chris, I would say a solid understanding of human behavior. I think that if you have that, that will equip you to make some good decisions, to let a few things slide, and to arm yourself with what you need to succeed.
I love that answer so much because I want to say me too to that answer, but that's also like going up to Eddie Van Halen and saying, and I play guitar. So I'm just going to say I agree with your answer. Rob, what goes in the backpack?
Every single strength or every success that you've ever had in your past. I think you can return to those and build off them. If you've done something, even partway, like training for a marathon, and you only made it 10 miles, you made it 10 miles. How did you figure out how to go 10 miles? So going back to some success and realizing that you're capable of doing it again. I lean on success all the time. Like, how did I do that? Why was that successful? I can figure this out.
Sorry, I'm not talking because I'm just thinking about that one.
I'm looking at all the comments.
Russell Brand had a comment. Russell Brand used the term like borrowing, and it really kind of reverberated with me for a long, long time. He was borrowing some energy from over here to do something over there, and I was just like, well played, Russell. So this has been a pretty killer episode. A lot of people feel pretty happy about it. They're pretty jazzed, and it's always great when we can bring local talent as well. It's nobody knows. Everybody thinks we're all from New York or somewhere like that, or Los Angeles or San Francisco, Paris, but we're not. We're from here. But Rob is a fellow Mainer like myself. Nancy's a New Englander herself, so we brought it. Carrie was on the Cape, which is another place, and my Grammy was from.
It's another place.
My Grammy was
also a place
in Augusta, Maine.